Have you ever felt like something was impossible? Well, so did the men in our Bible story today. But God showed them that nothing is impossible with Him. The Israelites, who were God's people, and the Philistines, who were enemies of God, were at war with each other. Each army was lined up on the side of a mountain, facing each other with a valley in between them. But the Philistines had a ferocious weapon in their army. His name was Goliath. Goliath was a huge man. He stood taller than anyone else, and he was strong. Every day Goliath would come out and shout across the valley at the Israelite army, "Send somebody out to fight me. If I win, you will be our servants. If you win, we will be your servants." But of course, nobody wanted to go. They were afraid of Goliath. He was so big. But every day for 40 days, Goliath would come out and dare them to come fight him. Meanwhile, back home, David was taking care of his father's sheep. One day his father came to him and gave him some food, said, "Take this to your brothers who are fighting in the army." Being a good son, that's what David did. As he got closer to where the armies were camped, he heard Goliath, and it made him mad. He said, "Who does this heathen think he is, that he can talk about the living God that way?" Eliab, David's brother, got mad when David said this. "Why aren't you back home taking care of your sheep?" You see, he thought David was calling them a coward. But someone else heard David say this and took him to King Saul. David told King Saul, "I'll go. I'll fight him, King Saul." Saul said, "You're just a boy. How are you going to fight a giant?" "I have been taking care of my sheep for years," he said. "I have pulled lambs out of the mouths of lions and bears. If the God who protected me from lions and bears can protect me from Goliath." "Okay," said King Saul, "but at least take my armor and my weapons." David tried to put them on, but Saul was so much bigger than him that they didn't fit. He couldn't walk around with them or pick up that heavy sword. "Thank you, King Saul," he said, "but I'll handle this." David got his slingshot and 5 smooth stones. Off he went to meet the giant Goliath. When Goliath saw David coming, he was insulted. "What? You're sending a dog out here to meet me? What do you think about?" David said, "Well, you coming at me with weapons, but I'm coming at you in the name of the living God." That made Goliath even madder. He took off toward David, but David picked up the stone, put it in his slingshot, and swung it round and round, and he let it go just as hard as he could, and that stone landed smack right in the middle of Goliath's head. Goliath fell over dead. When the Philistines saw that, they were terrified. They knew that God had intervened to protect his people. They ran away afraid. God had done the impossible. He had used a small boy, or a teenage boy, I should say, to protect the whole country from a giant. And God still does the impossible.